So let's talk about someone from way back in the late Roman Empire who, you could argue, built the very house we all live in, the house of our own minds. His name was Augustine, and he basically drafted the blueprint for what we now call the inner self. You know that feeling, right? That urge to go on a journey of self-discovery, to look deep inside and figure out who you really are? We totally take this idea of an inner world for granted today. But what if I told you that for most of human history, asking that question would have gotten you some seriously confused looks? The whole idea that you have a private internal space, a self just waiting to be discovered, that had to be invented. And Augustine, well, he was the chief architect. To get how he did it, we've got to start with the world he was living in. Okay, so to really understand why Augustine turned inward, you have to picture the world he was so desperately trying to escape. We're talking about a world of total chaos, violence, and just deep uncertainty during the crazy final days of the Roman Empire. Just imagine it, late 4th century Roman North Africa. The massive Roman Empire is starting to crack. Political enemies are getting taken out, barbarian armies are on the move, and it feels like the whole fabric of society is just coming apart. This is the world Augustine was born into. So when he gets to the big city of Carthage as a young, ambitious student, this is how he describes it in his famous book, The Confessions. He wasn't seeing a shining city of learning. He saw a hissing cauldron of shameful loves. He felt the chaos of his world on a really deep, personal level. And look, this wasn't him being overly dramatic. The chaos was real. You had student gangs who actually called themselves the Destroyers just running wild. Different Christian groups were literally fighting each other in the streets. And public life, it was all about big, brutal shows of imperial power. Everything was external, loud, and pretty violent. So what do you do when the world outside seems to offer nothing but noise and uncertainty? Well, Augustine made a move that would literally change the course of Western thought. He turned away from all of it. This was the big question for him. I mean, think about it. If the empire's laws are falling apart, if religious groups are at war, if public life is just one big spectacle, where do you even begin to look for something solid, something true? His answer was absolutely revolutionary for his time. He basically said, everyone's looking in the wrong place. The real search for truth doesn't happen out there in the world of the senses. It has to happen in here, inside your own mind. The real action, he argued, is in the internal world of the soul. And this right here just lays it out so perfectly. On one side, you have the noisy, chaotic outer world of public drama and brute force, and on the other, Augustine starts to map out this brand new territory, a private, inner world of consciousness, a place that isn't governed by emperors, but by your will. This, he said, was the only place you could find real, lasting truth, far away from all the confusion. So once Augustine stepped into this inner world, he had to draw a map. And right at the center of that map, he placed something incredibly powerful and honestly kind of terrifying. And this brings us to his absolute game-changing idea, the will. For Augustine, your will is the engine of your entire self. It's that power you have to choose, to desire, to act. And, this is the crucial part, he said this power is radically free. In his view, nothing, not your circumstances, not your fates, not even God, can force your will to choose something it doesn't want to. He used this idea of a free will to tackle one of the oldest, toughest questions there is. If God is all good, where does all the bad stuff come from? Augustine's answer is brilliant. He says evil isn't a thing. It's not a substance God created. Evil is a choice. It's the act of the will, freely choosing to turn away from the highest good, God, and loving something lesser instead. It's a bad choice, a misdirection of our love. So the takeaway here is huge. You can't blame the world, and you can't blame God for evil, because in the quiet of your own inner self, you have this one thing that is absolutely 100% yours. Your will. As he puts it right here, it's the only thing you can truly call your own, and your choices are what make you, you. But Augustine didn't stop with just the individual. He took this deeply personal, internal power of the will and scaled it up to explain, well, basically the entire story of humanity. This is wild. He proposed that based on what your will chooses to love, God or yourself, you become a citizen of one of two invisible cities that have been running through all of human history, all at the same time. Your inner choice determines your ultimate home. And here they are. You've got the earthly city, which is made up of everyone whose will is turned inward, dominated by self-love. They're all about seeking power and glory in this world. Then you have the heavenly city. It's made up of everyone whose will is turned upward, toward the love of God. They see themselves as just pilgrims passing through. For Augustine, all of history is just the story of these two cities being tangled up together. Okay, so a bishop writing about the fall of Rome 1600 years ago. Why on earth should this matter to us today? Well, because the inner world that he mapped out, that's the world you and I are living in right now. I mean, think about what he gave us. The very idea of a private inner world that's worth exploring in the first place. He shifted the whole definition of a self from being about your family or your job to being about the private choices of your will. His own book, The Confessions, created the template for telling the story of your life as an inward journey. He's the one who convinced our whole culture that your inner life is, in many ways, more real and more important than your outer one. This whole inward turn became so incredibly dominant that we don't even see it as an idea anymore. It just feels like reality. When we talk about finding ourselves or being true to ourselves or looking deep within, we are speaking Augustine's language, whether we realize it or not. So here's a thought to leave you with. The next time you are reflecting or journaling or just trying to understand your deepest self, pause for a second. That private space you're exploring, the very idea that you can explore it, it was all designed by an ancient architect who, running from the chaos of a collapsing empire, decided to build a whole new world inside the human soul.